Welcome all to High Strangeness in Alaska, the Bigfoot studies. I've been doing this series for a good solid 3 months now. Every Sunday we have Bigfoot goodness coming to you, cartoon goodness, and Sunday morning. So thank you for all the support. We're going to keep going. My first big real expedition is coming up. I'm actually preparing for it tonight. I'm going to go down to South Kachemak Bay and across the bay, meet up with Beans Baxter, do some interviews with him, and go out with Davin to his cabin where there have been some sightings. It is a hot spot. We'll talk about that. We'll do a whole video on that. But I wanted to talk about Bigfoot as a solitary creature, or are they found in groups, communities, families? It's really interesting to think about. Obviously, you think about it as a hominid, ape-like mammal. Of course, it has to have parents and some kind of community. I have always thought the Bigfoot as almost like a bear. The bear does not typically hunt in packs. Sometimes some cubs that grew up together will stay together for years as adults, or if there's a salmon stream, they will kind of converge because of the food. But typically a bear has so many square miles it likes to itself. It's territorial. It'll fight other bears that come in, and it likes being by itself until mating season comes around. Then it'll find another bear. But I have always thought of the Sasquatch like that. It prefers to be kind of a solemn creature, and it makes sense. However, we do have not a whole lot, but we have some sightings where there are groups of them, they're communicating, and the whole tree knocking phenomenon I love. It's super interesting. I have heard some things which could have been tree knocking, but they're communicating, and that means they're communicating with another Bigfoot. We also have sightings of immature Bigfoot, like a little juvenile Bigfoot with a big one or a small one running across the road. And when I was down in southeast Alaska, Prince of Wales Island, I talked to an elder who said that, you know, family of Bigfoot, Sasquatch lived on the island. There was 11 to 13 of them kind of spread out because they kind of wanted their area on the island. And so it's interesting to think about. But typically a Bigfoot counter, I would say, and this is just a guesstimation, 80–90% of them, you're just seeing a lone Bigfoot out in the woods, in the mountains, and you're just seeing a single Bigfoot. So really interesting to think about. I wanted to check in with Rob Menzies. I'm going to be doing more interviews with him, and we've got to get together for some camping trips too, because that guy's a camping fool. He loves going camping with his dog, and now I've got my dog, so it would be super fun before it got super cold. But let's check in with Rob Menzies. All right. So one of the stories that I've heard of, well, some accounts, there have been families of Bigfoots, like on certain islands and areas. What do you think about Bigfoots kind of being a solo, lone creature, or living in groups, families, clans?
Well, I think they all start in a family. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happens between, you know, family and adult.
Right.
But I imagine it's something similar to, you know, humans or animals. They got to kick the kids out of the nest sooner or later.
Right.
It's always amazing to me when I hear people come in and they're not really aware of Bigfoot much. They've heard of it or whatever, but they all think that there's one Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. You know? It almost cracks me up, but no, that's not the case. Yeah. But I do think that, of course, there's families, especially I've read about a lot of different situations, habitual situations where people buy land and there's a family already living on them. Right. Those are my favorite kind. Similar to Area A. Area A is a perfect example. Yeah. It's not just one. There's several of them out there. Obviously, it doesn't take you long to be out there to figure that one out. Right. But I do wonder if, and probably do, I would think the males eventually have to wander out, kind of, you know, earn their badges, and they probably get sick of their parents or whatever, and they got to go find their little valley to live in, or and maybe that's what, when people are catching these these ones that are kind of more like closer to cities or something. The younger ones seem to be the little troublemakers,
Right.
Which makes sense because when we're young, we're troublemakers. So,
Yep.
But as far as the family, yeah, I think definitely they're families, and they probably somehow graduate from the family and move on. Again, I'm only speculating. I'm not a scientist or anything, but
Have you heard stories of more than one Bigfoot being sighted before?
more than one, yes. The one story I was told by a friend of mine, actually, he told me the story. He knew, this is again, friend of a friend of a friend.
Sure.
The friend told me he knew the two gold miners. I believe Alex told you the story, but basically it goes that these two gold miners fumbled upon two Bigfoots,
Wow.
grazing, like just laying like great apes do, laying in this foliage, and they're just eating the leaves off trees with their mouths, putting the whole like little twigs in their mouth and pulling the leaves off,
Wow.
like a great ape does. And they said that these particular miners watched them for like 20 minutes.
Wow.
So, yeah, they've been seen, two.
Yeah.
And I want to say that's probably the only one I've heard of in this state where someone's seen two at a time. It's a pretty incredible story.
Yeah.
But I love telling it.
Not always lone creatures then. They do sometimes.
I guess not. I mean, why not? If there's one, they say if there's one, there's going to be another one around. So, and then there's the kids, if they have babies around, God forbid, whew, don't know what they would do. You know what a bear does with their cubs.
Oh,
they get really mad. Alex and I almost hit a baby cub.
Oh, wow.
Just ran right in front of our car up on Highland at my house. And I screeched the brakes on, and for a second there, I thought I might have hit it.
Wow.
And he ran over the guardrail, and we looked, and there's Mama. Not that big of a black bear, but boy, she was not happy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I backed up about 5 feet so Alex could get a better look at the bear. She didn't. I don't want to say she charged him, but she kind of did a little like, "Oh, you guys," kind of thing, and he kind of rolled his window back up. But that was a cool experience. So.
Yeah, and then you think about a mama Bigfoot probably get really mad too.
Good Lord, yeah, I would imagine. And look at the movie Exists. We've seen that one. That was a whole movie based on that whole sub. The infant gets killed and he takes revenge. So don't hit a Bigfoot.
No. Lesson learned.
Right.
All right, that was Rob Roy Menzies, owner of the Bigfoot Art Gallery. If you're ever in South Central Alaska, go to Palmer, check it out. Not only is it a cool art gallery with lots of Bigfoot themed stuff and lots of his actual artwork he does, but it is a meeting place, and you never know who's going to pop in, some famous Bigfoot person, investigator, or people just pop in and you'll get a once-in-a-lifetime story. So it's been a lot of fun. I need to go back to that place. It's a blast. So I stumbled upon this website. It's something weird. I don't know if it's a false flag. It was like some Save Our Children. And anyways, I'll throw the website. It's some obscure website. But they took a scientific look at communities of Bigfoot in Washington State. And Washington State, the Pacific Northwest, all the sightings in Mount St. Helens, so like during the volcano eruption, there was a ton of sightings because it ruffled all the Sasquatch up that were in the area, and they were running around. Just fascinating. I love Washington State. I've lived there before. But this article was interesting because it talked about the habitat needed to, for a Bigfoot community to survive, and it talked about tree canopy, water, how many humans were in the area, and all that affected how many Bigfoot would be in the area. And they estimated there could be, with availability of food, like 1 Bigfoot per 32 square kilometers, and I think that that's way more than a conservative. I think there'd be a lot less than that, but it's pretty interesting because that would only be in the hot spots. You compare that to Alaska, and we've got way more square kilometers and miles than Washington State, and with a much smaller community of people, very rural. There's huge, vast expanse with hundreds of miles. All these, everywhere you can look, there's places where there's no humans. That's the perfect environment for a Sasquatch. So it was pretty interesting to look at, you know, what is needed for a community of Sasquatch to live in. And when you talk about Alaska, especially some of the stories I'm hearing from Western Alaska now, the hairy man, you definitely have more than one Bigfoot down there. There are communities of Bigfoot. They're banded together at times to get angry at people. They are living there. Now you have to take in account the idea, and this is my personal theory, and there's other theories like that. In some areas, I think that they're sort of a spiritual, interdimensional creature. In some areas, I think they're just a man-like ape that's super intelligent that can hide from us. And in other areas, I think that they have the ability to pass through some kind of wormhole into another dimension. That's why we get these sightings where they just kind of fade out of existence. Just weird. And that's where we talk about high strangeness. There is an element of that, and it makes it even more perplexing and confusing. And it's a complex issue when you talk about Sasquatch in Alaska and other places. We do have some military sightings in Alaska. We've got the reports where military personnel have seen Sasquatch, and in some of those it has been more than one Sasquatch they have seen. So we're going to continue to investigate. I'm really excited to head down to Kachemak Bay because I got a bunch of equipment, and there's flashlights and spot lamps and infrared vision and thermal vision and all kinds of stuff I'm going to be using, trail cams and everything. So I'm super excited. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to keep the videos going, and I appreciate you guys. It's Chuke, your friend in the field.